How are you, sir?
ಈಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಬರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೋ ಅಲ್ಲ ಬರ್ಬೇಕಾ? ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ.
Okay, so good morning everyone, and Nazneen, can you take it forward? Nazneen?
So a very, very good morning to everybody. It's wonderful to be a part of this meeting, which is on Zoom. I think this is the first time that I have been live on this. I would first like to say a very good morning to our two very renowned guests. And I would also like to start with the vision, the mission, and the objective of what HR milestone is all about. The vision is definitely very clear to all of us, and which really stands out, and that is to be leading the HR community focused on learning and development of the HR fraternity. And our mission is to bring together our HR leaders and the academics and trusted on the common platform to keenly learn and exchange knowledge so that members can achieve their potential, drive organization performance, and advance our profession. Our objectives have been very clear: to provide the platform to HR professionals, interact and network, steer and drive through the learning processes, raising network, and strengthen industry academic interfaces. Today we have with us two very, very renowned people from our fraternity. I would like to welcome Mr. H. Mahadevan and Mr. S.K. Raizada. Who doesn't know them? Well, they are so famous. We hear their names not just because we meet them, but through the fraternity somewhere or the other. Just a very brief on Dr. S.K. Raizada. He's an alma mater of the MS University of Baroda, the post-graduation from the Faculty of Social Work. And he's one of the most renowned, well-known towering personalities of this fraternity. People know him as the HR and the IR guru and carries an experience of more than 39 years. He has been a backbone of the Piramal group, and he has carried with him the tag of the CHRO. What more can somebody know him better through this fraternity? A well-known philanthropist. Out of his experience, he's varied industries: Amul, Gujarat Steels, Ahmedabad, in Gujarat Steel Tubes Limited in Ahmedabad, the Bell Ceramics. His noteworthy contribution has really been good with Apollo in Baroda, and he is also one of the youngest vice presidents of HR of the Reliance Industries in Jamnagar. He has very many feathers in his hat, with one being the Jewel of India Award by the Indian Solidarity Council and the Vijay Ratna Gold Medal by the International Institute and the Education and Management of New Delhi. Well, I would also want to let you know that he has a lot of experience in our fraternity, and I would like to invite him to add value to this session today. I would also like to run you through with what is AITUC. Who doesn't know AITUC? All of us know it. It has been existing, I think, more than since the time we were born, right? And it is the oldest trade union. It is affiliated not with a single political party. And can anyone guess what a mammoth union this is? Way back in 2002, that is 2002, it had more than 26 lakhs people who were its members. And today we have Mr. Madhavan, who is the national president of this AITUC. The work speaks more than words. The ownership and the dedication which our guests have invested in their career is what makes them what they are today. Let us all welcome them, and may I request them to enlighten us with whatever they can in this short period and just add value to this session and help us by and also being mentors to us through this session and even later on. And people can reach out to you from this fraternity and learn so much from you with so much of experience that you carry with you. We welcome you to this session, and may I request you to kindly take forth this session, please. Dr. Raizada, can I ask you to begin, please? Thank you so much.
Thank you for a very nice and kind introduction. But standing in front of Mr. Madhavan is like, it's a towering personality known to us. When we were students, we were hearing the AITUC, some of the landmark judgments, and the pivotal role played by him in making trade union positive is known to people. So thank you very much, HR Milestone, first of all, to organize such a wonderful session, and our heartiest welcome to Mr. Madhavan. Without taking much of time, sir, this is an era where, everybody has started talking new normal. Now, new normal has become actually normal. So, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So in this era of new normal, in the era of uncertainty of times, where people are hired and fired left, right, and center, where the government is invoking various ordinances. So to start with your vast experience in the trade union movement, how do you see this current situation from trade union perspective to start with, and then we will take it up the other facets of this movement as well as the emerging trends. So over to you, sir. How do you analyze the current situation?
Hello.
Madhavan sir. Madhavan sir. Yeah.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning, sir.
I'm happy that the HR Milestone Forum has organized this Zoom meeting. The topic seems to be emerging times, role of unions and IR. While thanking the organizers for this, I have some basic points to touch. The topic is made, I believe, based on certain assumptions. One assumption is time has changed forever. There is no relevance of the past 100 years development of the industrial relations. COVID-19 is permanent. The adverse effects arising out of lockdowns will continue for indefinite period. Gains and achievements of collective bargaining are of no more guaranteed. The gains are restricted and one-sided. I feel that look beyond short term is essential. We should look beyond short term. That's an essential thing now. While introducing me, the madam has said that my organization, I want to say it is 100 years old. 1920, my organization started. The AITUC is 100 years now. I am the national working president of the AITUC. This I want to say, then our membership is more than 1 crore now. Crore and odd, that is our membership. I think this needs to be told, at least to tell. We have come across many successes, failures, difficulties, settlements, all sorts of things. Our organization participated in the national movement against the British. There are a number of things are there. I don't want to speak all those things at this stage. That needs a different forum. Now these, whatever the assumptions have been told now, I think some of them are imaginations and not real. The present situation is yet another passing phase, according to me. Not a cycle, this cycle comes and goes. I feel past history is real. Yesterday's as well as for the future, though not reflected now immediately. With all great respect to our HR friends whom with I am dealing with for a number of years, I have now entered 80 years. In fact, in these 50 years or more, around 60, 55 years, I have been in trade union movement. A few hundred settlements we have made. So I don't want to say past is not real. Past was real, is real, future also will be. With some modifications, it will be there. We still believe and unflinching faith on and confidence on directive principles of state policy cannot be totally brushed aside. I don't want to go into details of it at this stage. Everybody knows here in this audience what are directive principles which are related to labor. Many decisions of the judiciary, of the high courts and supreme courts of the past cannot be set aside. Though some of these are not implemented, we know. Many of them are not implemented. And preamble of the Philadelphia Declaration, that is the ILO, labor is not a commodity, war against want, poverty anyways is a challenge to prosperity everywhere. These are also to be taken into good faith. Then coming back, I was talking about the decisions. Many important decisions have not been implemented. For example, 212 of 2013, that Punjab case in Supreme Court, delivered by the Supreme Court that says all temporary workers, contract, casual, work charge, badalis, etc., are entitled to the minimum wage of the permanent workers in the corresponding industry. This is not implemented by anybody, both public sector and private sector, we know that. Despite my quoting this everywhere, nobody bothers to implement that. I only feel that we should not create unprotected workers in the organized sector also. Already unorganized sector is unprotected workers. We have seen their plight now recently. Those construction workers, those who are coming about 1 crore and odd, wondering not about 1 crore, more than that, much more than that. They were wandering throughout the country. You know all those things. Next is, there are many Supreme Court decisions and decisions are there. Once it says judicial decisions there, bonus is a deferred wage was there originally. It was said originally bonus started from plague bonus. It was, I don't want to go to the history. 8-hour working is there is an attack on the 8-hour working now. It's real. And the long run, this will come back. Some state governments had entered for the present, they altered it, forgetting the very many events have taken place in the past. It's a worldwide issue, 8-hour work. And again, there is a decision which we are not implementing from our side. Contract workers, costs can be exposed by the permanent workers union, exposed, not exposed, exposed. This we are not doing it, trade unions for here it is. So we want to really look into all these things. I come back to this. What do we want in this period? In this period, we want, you should have a proper information sharing. You should have a consultation on the mechanism for decision making wherever possible jointly. In order to achieve this, what are required? First, increase job satisfaction, increase organizational commitment, but all of them. Increase teamwork at all levels. Customer satisfaction increase, contributed by all stakeholders. Reduce complaints on either sides. reduce conflicts. If we want to do this, if we are able to achieve this, we are entering into a new era actually. And towards this, can we bring and improve the attributes? Motivation, confidence, job involvement, high self-expectation, desire for achievement, aptitude, ability, personality improvement. All these things are to be, we should aim at. Mental fog is often described as cloudy headed feeling. Cloudy headed feeling, we call it mental fog. That should not be there. Now, this is, I feel, in my long experience. Hello.
Ask other people to put it on mute, please. Sorry, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Now what is happening is, I am openly speaking, frankly speaking, what is the situation, what we should aim at, having been responsible in many things. I have made a few hundred settlements also in the past with various private and public sector companies. Now, unfortunately, the attitudes are not inspiring confidence in us. The impression is, what we are gaining is, government is becoming anti-labor, number one. Government wants to go back 100 years, at least UP government's ordinance, banning all the laws for 3 years. That's an example, and many more have done, attempted to do also. Some cases they were stopped by Supreme Court or the High Court concerned. In some places, avoiding paying wages is there, or the reduced wages, reduced perks. In public sector, I am telling you, we had a settlement in one of the biggest, I will not name the organization. One of the organization, a big organization in public sector. Somebody is.
Excuse me, please put the mic on mute, except the speaker. Please put your mic on mute.
Praveen B.
Please put your mic on mute. This is a genuine request. Thank you.
In a big public sector industry, where I am connected with, it's a multi places. Whatever agreed with the unions collectively with them, they have started it unilaterally stopping the perks. It's not employer, public, private sector, or even public sector have done that. In some places, reduce the manpower of permanent workforce, perennial workforce. Unfortunately, government seems to be onlookers, helpless, not enforcing the laws. When they start enforcing, they are put in difficulties. In my own state, I had an experience. The Secretary of Labor was a very enthusiastic person. I have not met him also. And he had been implementing many decisions of the relevant period in a sincere way. He was forced out from that post. Secretary himself was forced out. I don't want to give the name. This has happened in front of my own eyes. So the government can't be like this. Many times we see, earlier itself we used to say, if there is settlement, it should be only between the parties. Labor Department will only go there for signing something, their endorsement. But even that is not taking place now. Labor Department is not working. Those who work, I have told you, at the behest of somebody else, they either get transferred or go to different place. Earlier, there used to be a say, sickness is a profitable business. It was not told by me. It was told by past BIFR chairman, Mr. Ganapati. So this was working. Once again, some people are making sickness as a profitable business. This is the situation which we are seeing. There are very recent case studies. I can give you my own without mentioning the names of the organization. One industry which has been making good profit in the last 3 years, their settlement is due. And that's one of the biggest biggest employer in this country. That unit of Bangalore unit, they said that we don't want to make a settlement now. Our board has taken a decision not to do anything 1 year. There must be a desert for 1 year. I pleaded many things. All right, you don't discuss anything now. Leave it at that. Think of an interim relief. If it is not possible, leave with that also. Whenever you are asked to do, then do, but at least take care of the past. This also they don't want to do. The well-meaning company, and then there are many people engaging in not collective bargaining, concession bargaining. This is what I'm seeing. Concession bargaining, I hope people can understand. You make concession in what you are already having, reduce that, etc. One another MNC wanted 2 years adjournment of the settlement. That's also that's a company run by Indians, but American management, Chinese funded. These are all many such companies are there now. I don't without telling the name. Then the good things are also happening. In one other company, I'm going to sign a settlement on 20th of this month. 20th of this month, with retrospective effect from 1/1/2019. That's also a good case. I'm giving a case study. All bad things I am not saying. That is not making profits. They are hoping that we will go ahead. So these are all some of the examples I'm just saying. In one company, another MNC, they threatened to go for layoff. Layoff means 50% wages. So the workers, I didn't want to interfere in that. I left it to the workers leaders. They discussed, then they agreed for 85% wages instead of layoff. That means 50%, instead of 50%, they will get 85%. So these are all what is happening now. I told you even in public sector. Now, if this is the attitude, whatever I told earlier, bringing the coordination, commitment, this, that, so many things, we are not thinking in positive terms. My whole problem is if you think in positive terms, we can avoid many things. I have given some suggestions to some of them with my own past experiences. In some cases, there are job losses. In the unorganized, there is no guarantee at all in the organized. And unorganized, there is no HRA, no IR, nothing is there for them. We should make a SWOT analysis of the situation. What are our strengths collectively? What are our weaknesses? There are many opportunities besides threats. That's SWOT analysis. We have to do it sometimes case to case, sometimes regional also. One analysis for whole country will not do at this stage. CSR is very much talked about for a long time. Now CSR is, my explanation is this: CSR means cruel social reality. CSR is cruel social reality now. Unfortunately, in our country, there is no unemployment relief. Unemployment relief. I can quote you a number of countries which are having that. Now, recently, government has brought in a fixed term employment. And the last state governments have started doing that now. I could say this fixed term employment means fixing the divorce date first before fixing the marriage date. Before fixing the marriage date, you fix the divorce date. So when you will divorce also should be fixed. It's a cruel sort of thing. No permanency is required, okay. Fixed term employment. And already minimum wage, there is attitude. So the government's attitude is disappointing. Some employers unhelpful. Judiciary is not much wanting. Atypical forms of employment without check and balance grow. Atypical forms of employment, you know that. We don't have a minimum living standard scheme. MLSS is called. In our country, we don't have a minimum living standard scheme. Ease of doing his business is good. Government speaks of ease of doing business. I don't know whether the government itself, whether the employer agree with what the suggestions are given. Anyway, or ease of doing business is all right. 87 and 98 convention of ILO, they can't be flagrantly violated. In fact, when some of these things came in India, ILO itself wrote to the government of India that your attitudes are not good. Anyway, now coming back to the things, as I told you, AITUC is the oldest trade union, started in 1920. We have put some many small demands, some of them 5 demands. Even today they are relevant. One is minimum living wage, equal wage for equal work. Second, right to work. I am not calling it fundamental right, but right to work. 6 hours work per day. I pleaded it recently in some forum. That means more shifts, more people can work, and more productivity, more purchasing power, more. All these things will increase. Atypical forms of employment, left, right, and center should go. And unfortunately now, I am talking not the employers alone at fault. Some of them are still good. I quoted you an example also. Aggressive privatization moves are going on from the government itself. Coal mines, even railways, we never thought private railways will be there. It was there before, long back. DRDOs, many PSUs, all of them are under that. What is the after effect of it? Today it is already somebody doesn't go. In the long range, what will be the after effect of the employment? Many other conditions will come. 100% FDI in defense, coal, ordnance factories. These are all recently announced by the government. ILO sent an advisory to the government of India also. I am aware of that, it is with me. Reforms is required. Reform do not mean privatization of labor laws. Privatization of labor laws is not reforms. Some questions are there for me before my conclusion in the first portion. We used to say business of business is business. It is none of your business to interfere in my business. I will mind my own business, you mind your business. This used to be a say in the past. Now I think nobody can say that business is everybody's business. That is where the HR question comes. That is where the industrial relations machinery has to work. So first question is the business of business is still relevant, or should it not undergo a change? Should the work, number 2, should the workers be treated as a number, just a number, which can be shelved and added during fluctuations? Again, we are seeing that it is there in unorganized sector, we know that. Construction workers all over the country come to some south here, there. They are thrown out without anything. And then we have seen all those things. But this can't happen in the, there's sometimes there is, it is to be explained in a big way. Still I am saying that there is an unholy alliance between the lawmakers, law protectors, and law breakers. On either sides, I'm not saying one side. There have been a number of examples are there. Unholy alliance between the lawmakers, law protectors, and law breakers. Should this be allowed to continue? Should not the informed people put their efforts? Then the next point is, even in the future, even if the COVID-19 temporarily makes many things, should negotiated service conditions be substituted or replaced by arbitrary service conditions? Negotiated service condition is different. They can negotiate, leave something. Many adjustments can take place. By arbitrary service condition, if you give better also, it will be challenged. There is always a question on that. I remember long back in one company, private company, employer was good, of course. He used to go to the sports ground, annual meeting. In all those people, he will announce something to the workers. Then the workers thought, why he is announcing without discussing with us? Maybe we are entitled to something more. That's why he is announcing these things to deprive that. Anyway, this has happened long back. To bring back trust and confidence, there is a deficiency. Bring back trust and confidence. Should not there be a non-arbitrary, non-authoritative environment? I am saying either sides. Not union challenging the management, I will see. No. Non-arbitrary, non-authoritative environment must be there. We should live together in the future also. We are aware of that. Cannot I and you, it is me. We should live together. One can't win over the other. If by dubious methods. There are many methods are there. I have just placed some viewpoints starting from the past, present, and something towards the future also. With our experiences in the past, I could proudly say I am one of those who made a few hundred settlements between the company, private and public sector, etc.
So, sir, let me take this to a current this thing that it's a wonderful historical perspective, and the many of us are not even of your age of experience. Your experience may be higher than our age, so it's a wonderful session. So now let us come back to a very specific thing, that how you look at role of a trade union and the IR machinery in this particular situation, because my colleagues are more interested to know that how do we face this, where we have a feeble, as per your term, because this is a apolitical, non-political organization. So we and as a part of employer, we would like to see that how we tackle. On one side, there is a not a speedy labor reforms. On the other side, there are very few, I would like to say very few enlightened trade unions. And the IR professionals are sandwiched between the employer, employees, union, as well as a slow moving government machinery. So how based on your vast experience, how do you perceive a role of a trade union in this given scenario? Very specific things, sir.
I only think first, look beyond short terms.
Okay.
We are only looking at the short terms. I think we should look beyond the short term. Cyclical changes do take place. Even before this COVID came, Indian economy was in difficulty. Many companies were in difficulty. Even before that,
yeah,
we somehow overcome. Many things are not in our own hands. It is not employers and trade unions' hands. It is somebody else. Many other factors are responsible for it. And the feeling is, I have also said it in the past many times, with sympathy with the IR people, they are sandwiched between both. I have also told this. Okay, told this.
What are the techniques they should use?
But we have helped them informally. They have helped us informally. Recently, there was
basically it's a give and take relationship.
Yes.
What do you advise the young IR professionals, because this is a situation which we have seen once in lifetime? So how do we I would say arm our trade union functionaries as well as the IR professionals to have a collective gain?
Unfortunately, in our system, maybe in employers' side is all right. There are some trainings given to them. They come with some training and all. Trade union, we don't have any training for this purpose. We have other trainings. Many other trainings are there. You should think of some more consecutive forms of training, sometimes jointly also.
Yeah,
Case to
it's a-
case, it should be seen case to case.
Okay.
Without giving up without doing anything illegal. At the same time, if there is a compromise possible, life is full of compromises only. All our settlements are compromise. It is not one party asked, the other party given, not like that. It's all compromises.
So the term
Compromises-
itself is settlement, sir. The term
If
itself is
compromises can be
settlement.
made for 3
Yeah.
years and 4 years, in public sector it is 10 years. If that could be made, why not on the smaller things also? Compromises can be made on a case-to-case basis. I can't put one answer for all of them. But the young, enthusiastic IR personnel who come, they get disappointed sometimes.
Yeah.
Not only with the attitude of the union, with the management also. In fact, management should participate in management. IR is not participating, they are only the after effect of the decisions of the management to implement it. That way, their words are not listened to appropriately. In fact, there is one case, I don't want to tell the company name, very big company. This is one unit of Bangalore is there for the last 25 years. I have made some 8 settlements in this place. Now, this company is merged with the 2 other companies and made another company. Okay. That board has taken a decision. For 1 year, there is no increase to anybody, no promotion to anybody, they took a decision. Possibly there are no unions there in the other places. Here we have for 25 years, so many things, and 8, 9 settlements we have made. Now, changing one comma, full stop, HR manager cannot do it. Everything they have to ask. At least some decision making, localized powers must be there. Can you say that there is nothing here when there is a settlement? The feeling is there is nothing flows out of the settlement. This is the feeling, which is wrong. Everybody knows it. Unless the new settlement is made, it is, unless we both of us agree to do something, the different thing. So they are not getting the adequate power, not full power. At least to sensibly apply their mind, they are not told. Young IR. Unfortunately, she is a woman. Okay, so she is really in difficulty. She is possibly afraid of both the sides. Then
So,
I told her,
sir, we have a lot of very strong women power in the HR milestone, and on the western side of India, I think there are far more enlightened companies to work with.
Yes.
At least my 40 years of experience says that Western India was always a modernized
yes,
region of the India, and many of my colleagues who are on this webinar, they have exercised far more powers, and at times I used to say that authorities are given, powers are to be snatched in a positive sense.
yes, yes.
Our women professionals are quite powerful, and they are on a very good standing. So coming back to that,
In the south also it is emerging now.
So I think the right wind is flowing from west to south, and it's a good sign. What is your opinion or considered view, sir? Right now, everybody is talking about digital transformation, digitization, AI, and automation. So, how do you perceive as a seasoned trade unionist and a leading IR practitioner from a union perspective, how this is going to change the face of industry and change the face of trade union movement?
My own experience over the years has not been based on digital. Because 60s onwards I am doing this. It is not only recently these things have been emerging. Human relations, it can't be done only with the digital. Much more than that is required. That is where the human relations are very important now. There was a say. 1 minute. Finish.
First process is self.
Hello.
Yeah, please put on the mute. Again, a request. When the speaker is speaking, allow him to, to speak. It's a flow of the thoughts. We should not disturb and respect his views. Thank you, sir.
Now the human relations play a very important role. Digitalization of various things can be done, not human relations. This is the most important thing. I have seen one-to-one talk, even with the topmost person or anybody else, has made a lot of changes in the attitude of both of them. That gets brought down back also. I will give you some small story to explain. Two brothers were there in those days to share. They wanted to share one cow, one coconut tree and blanket. The elder brother was a very cunning fellow. You must be knowing this. Elder brother was a cunning fellow. He said, the head portion of the cow you keep. I'll keep the back portion of the cow. Coconut tree, you take the bottom, big one. I will take the top. Blanket, I will use the whole day. I'll give you in the night with wet condition. Then this fellow said, oh, you are doing like this, wet condition, he didn't say. Do it in the night. So this fellow, the second fellow said, this is the one negative attitude. So he also started negative. All right, I'll take away my portion of the cow. You leave with your portion of the cow. Then coconut tree, I am going on the top. You are going on the top. I'll cut my bottom portion. I will leave. Blanket, I will give you in the night, putting in the water. This is the attitude. I'm just saying that. This can't be the attitude. That is one. There was a tamarind tree in a village. Two lawyers were fighting who belonged to this, who tamarind belonged to whom. It went on and for years. Small court, big court and all. One lawyer's son also became a lawyer. And later on, this son came and told father, you were fighting this case so long, I won the case. The father said, you became the lawyer because of this case. Okay. Okay.
So the impact, as per you, the impact of automation will bring a change in trade union thinking? How you are going to face this? Because I believe there is a large scale automation and AI being used, at least in service industry, it has started and likely to follow in a manufacturing also.
But still, automation can be limited not to the shop level production. Manufacturing shop level productions can't be, there are some new machines are there, new things are there. But my trade union people also started automation. When I started, I never had a computer or this and that.
Yeah.
My trade union fellows also come with that now to the meetings. I know that. They also do that. Impact is so long it is not reduction in jobs, reducing the wages. Some of these things, the impact will be good. If these are aimed at doing something negative, then there is an opposite thinking comes. Automation it cannot be wished away for all time. It has to be there. Our own work has to be done like that. Once upon a time when we were enrolling our membership registers, we were doing in a different way, taking a long time, months together for doing that every year. Now all these things are done in computer.
So in this trying time where the industries are struggling to remain afloat, where employers are looking at numbers maybe from, I would say, business profitability, various costs, energy cost, raw material cost, HR cost, including employees cost, and on the other side is the sagging demand. So what role the trade union should adopt? Should they join hands with the employers? Should they join hands with the employees? How do you perceive or how do you guide that we come out of this situation, as you said in the beginning of the your speech that COVID is likely to remain and it will have its own impact for a time to come. Now, if that is the situation, then how in this struggling economy, struggling employers, all are struggling, including employees, all are struggling. So what should be the pathway for the trade union to move forward along with all the stakeholders?
I'll tell you, it is no more the prerogative or the priority of the employer to modernize. Trade unions have accepted modernization in many places. The settlement I am going to sign on 20th, we have agreed for increase of 20% productivity. Increase in 20% productivity by various means. They are all aimed at modernization only. Because we are paid for that. This way we can be able to gain also, so it is good for them. What is mutually beneficial should be appreciated. If it is only one side beneficial, putting the other down, it can't be agreed. That is one approach, general approach. Then the second thing is many unnecessary stages are there. For example, in the production process, we have agreed to many stages need not be there. It all can be together and then better productivity can be brought in. We have helped many employees in their own organization. Not everybody is doing the same thing. Some people maybe their own old and theory, but because they have the same problem with the employer, so they continue in the same manner. Many progressive things have come now. There was a time when the workers were not much educated and all. Now educated workforce, qualified workforce, they are there. Naturally, the leadership is also qualified leadership is there. Look, for example, the bank employees in those days, or LIC employees in decades back. They were opposed to computer. The slogan was computer man eater. That was the slogan in those days. Subsequently, everything is automated in many places, except some work is required to be done by the personnel. Now, bank is used for all purposes now, including the government's MELA, loan, gain, everything. Now, bank is completely changing their whole process now, for example, is service. But manufacturing, unless the gains of productivity must be seen, it should be shared. If seen and shared, then they will agree. But not at the cost of reducing the present strength of workers. There must be some way out for them. There must be some alternate employment, something like that. It can be expanded. At the same time, the present work can be done by a lesser number of people if the modern process is made.
So your point well taken, sir. The important is, you see, it is said that growth and development is at the cost of somebody. Growth, vikas, किसी न किसी के ऊपर तो आता ही है. So growth and development is at the cost of somebody. So I agree that automation will change the face, and slowly and steadily it is increasingly impending its way into the manufacturing sector also.
Yes.
Robots are coming up. I think Amazon has gone for 1,000 robots in place of 10,000 people. And therefore, there is a big protest going on in US. So, but that's the reality.
India, it is difficult. Our manpower is so much.
Yeah. So now, but at the same time, the very important point you have brought out is the productivity. So it's a well-known study that the Indian worker or the Indian employees, they work for 5.5 hours if it is in the manufacturing setup. Except those who are on the service industry where now they are putting 10 and 12 hours. One is our productivity standards versus how do we fare as an employee versus the global trends, and how the trade union makes it a way. Because I was signing many settlements across the globe where I have seen that it is the trade union which puts forward to say that we will increase this productivity, therefore this is the additional revenue, therefore the additional profit, and therefore you give a share of that. So how far the Indian trade union will take this up?
There is no global answer for this.
Yeah.
That means answer for everybody. In selective areas, this has been done. The modern industries, selective areas, this has been done. There was a time in our foundries, work was different. People
Yeah.
used to bring cow dung for a process of the foundry operation.
Yeah.
It is no more there. I'm just saying that for example.
Yeah.
So there are many modern new thinkings are coming. Scientific development always get reflected in our attitudes, in our work. So we also accept the scientific development is inevitable. Only thing, harms should be stopped.
Yeah.
Harms created on account of that should be stopped. And there must be a policy in the government itself, as I told earlier.
Yeah.
There are governments where unemployment benefits are there. In the US, we are talking about foreign country, I am also talking about that. Based on the level of pay before job losses, they are up to 79% or so it is made. In France, earlier for the first 24 months, 57.4% of the gross value. Aged about 50 and others, they get 36 months only.
All European nations, they have gone for a cash dole for a couple of months.
No, I am coming
Norway,
to
Sweden,
Asia.
everywhere. Yeah.
Asia, I am saying Japan. There are also $81 per day was there for 3 months. Government to provide job. There is in UK it was dole for 25 years of age and 110 weeks. Germany it is also there. I don't want to go on detail. That is number one. Number two, unemployment is one cause. Sometimes intermittently takes place. Yeah. It should be removed. There must be also side by side employment opportunities to grow.
Yeah.
Which are the areas we should see now? For example, cement industry, where I was connected with. I am the president of the All India Cement Employees Federation. We used to make, there is one industry, another is bank. We make national level settlements. In cement industry, all the private companies and public company, once in 4 years, we make a national level settlement even today. Now also I made a settlement. Yeah. Srinivasan is the other side sitting. Yeah. Okay. So there also there are many modernization. Old cement plants are totally different. Wet plants have become dry plants. Many things have taken place. In banking, of course, you know that. Even recently they had a settlement also. Yeah. So the certain industries can be easily possible. The small scale industry, there is one problem is there. Government say they are giving them many loans and all. But there are many times, any problem come, they are getting close. How can employees be protected? Employer cannot do it. Government should have some scheme, either to get an alternate worker. Some method should be there. Employment exchanges have no use. They're all old concepts and nothing else. So if people are driven to a situation, it is difficult. If they are brought to a situation, it is difficult. It is different. So we should bring the changes
step by step.
Acceptance between them.
Yeah. So, sir, with that, we are also having a little bit of a time limit. So there are many issues our young professionals would like to raise and take benefit of your immense knowledge and experience. So the floor is open for the audience to ask questions so that, we can take advantage of the experience and expertise of Mr. Madhavan. It's a rare opportunity. So we must raise a qualitative question so that, we get an answer which is beneficial to the entire fraternity. Okay. So floor is open. Thank you, sir.
Sir, this is Harish talking on behalf of this program is live on Facebook and there are a lot of questions on Facebook. One of the question is, what is the social responsibility of trade union towards the nation at this present social and environment condition? One of the viewer, Kishore Kumar on Facebook Live has asked this question.
Social responsibility of trade unions mostly confined to their membership. About the industry, they will not be able to do much unless they are asked to participate. Participation is not taking place in many places. Rarely some organizations are there, I know that. They have responsibilities. They share the responsibilities. Otherwise, social responsibility, we say this unorganized workers to take care of them is the trade union responsibility. In the industry itself, there are people who are unorganized, contract, casual and all. In fact, there is a Supreme Court decision, which we have published also in the past, that the permanent workers union can espouse the cause of the contract labor. That's a social responsibility cast on us. What else is social responsibility? There are many responsibilities, financial, technical, many things are there. To the extent possible, we do that, but trade unions can't do all of them because they have no wherewithal for that.
Abhay, you have a question? Abhay?
I'll unmute myself. Very good morning to all of you, sir. Thankful that I got an opportunity to get this session and ask basic questions. I have 3 questions, sir. First, by and large, why all the agreements are being done on the basis of productivity as such? Productivity basically is core to the industry. We must produce whatever best way possible, and we must bargain for the best salary that is possible. So why there is a linkage between productivity and salary? Secondly, after the advent of globalization and other things in last 15 years, the trade union cause has taken a backseat. Probably we brush aside and move ahead, as you said, without really informing anybody. And we take certain decisions, especially HR takes certain decisions without taking union in confidence. And unions are no more that strong and aggressive or assertive to put forward their views. And the third question is Contract Labor Abolition Act, which is much abused. Workers are kept on tenterhooks all the time. They permanently get only minimum wages for 20, 25, 30, 35 years, doing the same work, while permanent workers keep getting their DA, their increments, their settlements, everything. So these are the 3 basic questions, and I'll be very happy to get some answer from a learned person like you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Trade unions are in the back seat, you say. First question, first the point you mentioned. We are in the back seat wherever it is not required. Wherever it is required, we are not in the back seat. For example, many policies of the government are not discussed with the trade unions. There are forums for it. For example, Indian Labour Conference is one forum, which has not met for 5 years or even more. Indian Labour Conference is the forum first. It's not meeting. There are no proper discussion, no decision, nothing is there. There must be an involvement at the top level at least. Once upon a time, I know, Tata and Dange used to sit together in that forum. Tata directly sit there. S.A. Dange was the trade union man. They sit together and discuss. In 1958, the gratuity came from that forum. That many other things came from that forum, Indian Labour Conference. So first of all, trade unions are not taken into consideration. Globalization, for example. Globalization is inevitable for certain areas. Globalization's effect, what are they? There should be some dialogue on this. If there is a dialogue, if globalization is only for 3 purposes, that is reducing the wage, reducing the number of people, and three I spoke in some other place in that. That is globalization leads to privatization, globally leads to something else, all of these things. The effects, after effects of globalization, if they are going to be discussed in advance, we can take common decisions. We can also come to the forefront and offer suggestions, attribute suggestions to that. Then this, you yourself said trade unions are not aggressive now. Aggressive, it is not aggressive. not answering. The problem is your government is just 1, 2, 3, 4 decisions they go on giving now without proper discussion, without consultation, etc. Only agitations take place. For example, using this COVID situation, coal industry is all getting privatized. Government has taken a decision. There's a very big opposition from the trade union. They went on strike, 3-day strike. One more day was to be there on 18th, that was postponed, so they did not have it. Should there not be a process even at that level? Discuss, find out the ways, what could be done, should have been there. The aggressive privatization that is taking place, there's a lot of negative things that's created. I'm only saying that. So trade unions are aggressive now. They can't agitate, they can't go on strike, they can't go, all sorts of COVID-19 after effects are there. This will not permanently remain. Once a proper medicine comes, this will be one more disease which is there in the list. This will also be there. One cannot eliminate the whole thing, and then we have seen the lockouts, we have faced it. Lockdowns, we have not faced it. So lockdowns cannot continue forever. Okay, like lockouts cannot continue forever. Now the last point is contract labor. You said that. I agree, Contract Labor Act is there, this and that and all. But why not we look at that? This says Supreme Court decision which I referred to of that latest decision, that's the last decision. Actually, I have published a booklet also on that. That the all sorts of temporary workers, contract, casual, badali, this, that, or any names, they are working there, they should get the minimum wage of that industry, not all of that corresponding industry. Why not implement this? Then there is no necessity of Contract Labor Act. There is no necessity of anything else. Refined judgment of the Supreme Court is the latest, 2016. This was pronounced. So there are some remedies. We can't have the old questions and then the old answers. I'm having a new answer for the new questions. If the judgment can be implemented gradually and take industries in some classified way, then contract labor is not required in that name. Even if it is there, they are taken care of. No act will come in the way. Every Supreme Court decision is a law. So that can overshadow the previous which are there. There is a way out. Unfortunately, we think only from our point of view, looking instead of looking at the other point of view. You have seen that unorganized labor, what is the plight in India, which we don't even know so much. The recent thing, that COVID.
Yeah, Mr. Abhay, anything else, or because other people are waiting?
True. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Very elaborated answer. Any other questions from the participants?
Hello, I'm Vibhakar Ramtirthakar from Pune. I would like to ask a question. May I go ahead?
Please.
Please.
Hello, I have.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I have 50 years in HR field. So S.A. Dange's right hand, I forgot his name. About 30 years back, he told me that
Sripath Amrita Dange. He is called Sripath Amrita Dange. Okay.
His assistant, his deputy. I met him about 25-30 years ago, and that time he told me that they committed a mistake in making a settlement. I will tell you how. He told me that instead of asking houses, they accepted HRA. Instead of telling the employers to provide for education of children, they accepted education allowance. For everything, they accepted allowance. If they had insisted on those facilities, the picture would have been entirely different. What do you have to say on this, please?
Yes. We know employer cannot provide the housing. In public sector, they can provide as a part of the expenditure establishment. Private companies cannot. So they themselves offered, instead of giving a house, we will give you the allowance. They are not giving the exact house rent. It is an allowance towards that. And employees started doing. make a total amount for this settlement, distribute it to various things. One element is HRA. There is no further meaning on that. It is not exactly giving the purpose also. Similarly, education. Education is a government responsibility. Correctly speaking, health, education, accommodation, and these are all the basic things enshrined in the constitution to be given by the government. Government's failure came on the employer. Employers also, they wanted to have a peace. So instead of housing, it's a very big project, everybody cannot give. Only public sector can afford in those days, even not now. So they gave house rent allowance. It's a name for that allowance. Education, there are schemes in some companies in the past. They used to take care of the education of these people. I remember Gandhiji's trusteeship. Gandhiji's trusteeship theory, you know very well. The employer should be like a father, take care of the children in the family. If that was so, the trusteeship was so, then education HRA did not come allowance. They would have taken care of themselves. So these are only compromises, again I said. Dange was correct, saying that housing must be provided, education should be provided. He is right, even now in our, I belong to the World Federation of Trade Unions, our basic demands are these, all these 5 issues which are there. These are our basic demand even now in the world level. Some countries are providing this. Our country doesn't provide this. Recently, some schemes are coming, but they are nothing to do with this. That is only for the below poverty or poverty line only, that, not industrial workers and others. So it is a compromise between the employers and the employees or the trade unions. That is how it came into existence. Bonus, for example, it all came from a plague bonus. You know that plague was there in Ahmedabad or somewhere. Then the people wanted to go away. Then they gave one dhoti and shirt. Then they converted it into money. That is how the bonus came. So all these things have come over the years.
People should read the history.
Pardon?
People should read the history.
Yes, yes.
How these concepts have come. So for the benefit of all participants, please try and read a book called Human Side of Tata Steel by Dr. S.N. Pandey. One of the pioneering book, how the Factory Act came into existence, how Provident Fund came into existence.
Yes, yes.
So these are, I mean, it's a very interesting concept which has emerged in Indian labor industry.
How every law has come, I got a history.
It has an history. It is
now,
worth studying.
Forgetting that state governments abolished the law. Look at that. Without knowing why they came, somebody comes here and announces.
Yeah. So any other question?
Can I ask a question?
And Deendyalan, I also want to ask a question.
Please.
Please go ahead.
The previous person can go ahead, then I'll ask.
Yeah.
Deendyalan.
Yeah. Shall I ask?
Yes,
Please.
Yeah, this is a time where unions and management can work together to form the cooperative movement back, so that all the provision groceries can be purchased cheaper, so that employees, their lesser income, can get a better advantage. Number one. Number two, in the global skill index, India is 102, China is 42. I think employer and union should join together to see how do we become number one.
Can you repeat that?
In the global skill index, India is ranking is 102, China is 42. And in this context, we can't be competitive at all. We should pay more, but we should be globally competitive. And unions have an important role there.
Yes. Should I answer?
Please.
I agree, cooperative movement is an important thing. There have been consumer cooperatives, finance cooperatives, house building cooperatives, a number of cooperatives have come. Some of them, unfortunately, did not function well. They give room for corruption and the malpractices also. There are people in the cooperative movement, they have become good. They have also become, there are some people who collapsed also in cooperative. one basic thing is you should have the faith and the dedication to work in the cooperative movement. I agree, cooperative movement is a very important thing in each industry, each company, they can do that. Many things can be done. We have successful cooperatives also in many of the, in fact, one industrial cooperative society, that finance cooperative society, they gave loan to the company when they were in difficulty. I'm aware of that. Company was in difficulty. Society had a lot of money. They gave the loan to the company. This is also extreme example. Also over there. Then this competitive, there are many factors on this. Union can play a role if you make a structure first. Competitiveness, which are the areas, what are the contributions made by these people, and the many times it is government policy. Number two, there are tycoons in certain areas. They don't allow competition within themselves. You know that, I don't want to tell. There are people who are able to win over the government. Our government at the mercy of some people, so they don't think of cooperatives. They don't think of cooperative. They are only operative with the support of the government, vice versa. So this is there. So competitive things, I have no much answer because it is depending upon many factors. As far as cooperative is concerned, it was a great movement. It was to be supported. In fact, in the Kerala, in the past, there have been number of cooperative movement in various sectors. They brought minimum wage, they brought many things to support to the organization also. So cooperative movement to be revived and encouraged with proper persons. There should be no selfishness on their part. And the other question, of course, I'm not competent to answer the competitive issues because there are many things are involved in that.
Next question, please.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I have three questions. Good afternoon, Dr. Mahadev. I have three questions for you. One, why is it still a lot of HR leaders think making the work environment union free is a big success for them? Second question is, why have the unions consciously stayed away from the IT industry? And third, do unions like AITUC and INTERC and CITU, do you all collaborate and come up with a common agenda for the workforce, or do you still say, I have this, you have that, so are you not able to come up with a common agenda to present to the government or to employees at large?
Good questions. I start from the bottom. There was only one union in 1920, nationally, that was our organization. And subsequently, for political reasons, somebody split away from us and formed Central Trade Unions. At times, government also contributed to that. That is why INTUC came, HMS later on came, and etc. etc. CITU came lately. And each political party has got one union in South, many places, Tamil Nadu, etc. We have been advocating this. Once again, there must be some coordination. For example, I moved a resolution on the eve of the General Council meeting of the IITUC held in Bombay last time. I went on the footsteps at how the working class unity has come, etc. Finally, I said, the time has come for uniting all the trade unions based on the common understanding, irrespective of political parties are there. We should do this. Is a movement resolution. I moved it. In fact, some people are wanting me to pursue it further. In that forum, I don't want to mention the name, one strong trade union did not comment on this. All other trade unions supported this. So that particular organization feels that they can alone go. They seem to be, they are thinking they are strong. But the time has come, the trade unions will have to get united not only ideological, but structural unity also is required. Structural unity required. Some of us trying for that. Earlier, there was a move to make HMS and the IITUC together. In Bombay, a lot of efforts took place. Then one other organization came from outside and said, wait, don't do it now, we will come. They did not come, this also did not take place in one stage. Now we also feel, many of us feel, it is necessary to have one voice so that we are able to go together. And the time has come, this is my call given in that the IITUC session is of the considered and decisive view. The time has come for all-round ideological and organizational unity of the Indian working class at a crucial time when the country is sought to be, something is going on there, so that to put the direction properly, this is required, I said. This is the last point you said. Then the IT industry, very few attempts were made. Not everybody. At the time, IT industry people did not feel it necessary to have a trade union movement there. By the time state governments have come with restrictions on this also. I'm aware of state governments not allowing unions in this place. And maybe they are thinking that the union is bad. It is not so in the Western countries. Then your other question is what? IT industry will come, not today. It will come that because when the job at stake, when the plenty of jobs are available now, and they can go abroad and all those things. Now abroad is getting, for example, America. Trump has given already some warning signals, maybe for his election. Here also, that number of IT people, they are still in movement here and there, they are moving. Stage will come if the wants are less, if the demand is less, and this thing is more, then naturally the demand and supply situation will come. Then in order to protect them, this will be there. Once bank employees were never united, and they are become strongest trade union movement in now. It will come, IT industry. And HR, something you said, I don't recollect. What was the HR you said?
The question was, why do HR leaders or CHROs even till date consider having a non-unionized work environment a big success?
You see, it's a wrong conception. HR leaders should never think non-unionization is an advantage for them. Maybe a small advantage for them for the time being in one sector or the other. It is always better to know the problems, to study the problem and take decisions, instead of keeping it, one day it will go in a different way. In Bangalore some years back, all those garment industries workers, suddenly it became a very big issue because there was no HR movement there. They felt there is no union is required here. But suddenly it boomeranged in a big way, Bangalore, a few years back. They were on the streets, thousands on their own. So that situation will come if short-sighted people think that it is not good for us. HR is a very important thing. And for their functioning, both the people should be there and they should try to do best, whatever is there. So they're thinking, if there is any such thinking, it is always better to have a non-unionization. It is a wrong concept, wrong thinking.
Anupam Singh.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Very good afternoon, sir. I have a question wherein I'm from automotive industry, wherein we have 18,000 manpower. Out of 18,000, we have 16,000 blue collar employees only. We plants across the country. We have 2 trade unions in Maharashtra. The major challenge what we are facing these days is wherein we know that most of the laborers went back their hometown, and we have to have activity as well. Though we do not process with layoff or any reduction in cost. So what are the best ways? If you can suggest like 2 or
Is it about non-participation of the unions in the, I want to understand exactly. What is the issue? 2 unions are there, automotive industry, and all those things are understood. What blue collar workers? Okay. What exactly is the problem?
Can you repeat?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Sanjay sir, can you hear me? Yes, sir.
Anupam, repeat your question once.
Please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I somehow. Yes, yes. The problem is that I was just talking about we have 18 plants across the country. We are from automotive industry, and we are also having 2 trade unions in Maharashtra. So the major challenges which we are facing these days are to ensure 100% productivity. But the challenges which we are facing these days, one of the part like the laborers went back to their hometown, and additionally we are not been following practices of reduction in cost. What are the best ways that we can ensure to own the food, or wherein we can act our shop floors again with the same, efficient manner?
The answer lies in your question itself. I'm just saying. First is 100% productivity is required. 18 units, 2 of them are in Maharashtra. 2 unions are there. Now they can contribute to less manpower. So also people have gone away from there. First of all, if the present manpower is sufficient to meet this demand of 100% productivity, number one. If the manpower is a problem, then we should fill up that. What means is a different thing. Number two, if some other technical problems are there, we should try to sort out. Just asking for productivity is something we should be able to do. Practically, we should be able to do. In many places, we have studied the time, the whole situation. Jointly, we made studies, and then how to improve the productivity. Case by case, I can give. There are many places out there. Today, I don't have immediately. There were problems, so we sat together and then we saw this is a material problem. It is the manpower problem. Is it the some other technical problem? Or what exactly is the problem we see? Everything can be studied together. In a very big shop, absenteeism was a problem. We took a joint study. What are the causes for this absenteeism? Very interesting things were there. I don't want to go into that detail. Similarly, rejection was more there in one of the main shops. So cause of rejections were plenty. We found out that, and then we took decisions. General, you asked a general question. One seems to be that manpower problem is there. 100% productivity can be achieved in some certain cases, not in all cases. But when they do so, it is necessary. What are the ingredients towards that? What are the causes for that? Collectively, we can do that. I have participated as a trade unionist in productivity. In fact, somebody was telling the other day in other question, I have many productivity classes in my many settlements. Mr. Venkatratnam, who is no more now, who was the advisor for the global management or some union organization, he has written a book, Unusual Collective Bargaining. You can see a number of agreements. My 4 or 5 agreements are also there in that book. We have contributed to that. That's what he has quoted there. Unusual. In that he said, productivity classes are there in this. Mahadevan has made it. This is what he has said. Of course, we have studied the whole thing. Our management asked, we just agree, or we just deny. They didn't go do that. It's not that. You read that book, there are some examples are there. So this problem should go slightly deep into this, analyze, and then we can take a decision. Otherwise, I can only give general things. Specific answers cannot be given on that particular unit. There are places. One is that They don't want to do is a different matter. They are not able to do is a different matter. They should be taught, trained is another matter. Or there are some other background reasons are there that should be rectified. There could be sometimes the intermanagerial problems also contribute to this things also. We have also seen that intermanagerial problems also come that. So there are many problems are there. We should study that.
It's a multifaceted issue. So another question is from Ms. Jalpa.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Right, Dada, I'll also ask one question, Pawar. Huh?
Then Pawar Saab, our most respected senior sir. Anytime, sir. Yes, sir. Ms. Jalpa, you will be the next. Yeah. Yes, sir. Pawar Saab.
Yeah. Sir, my question is that I'm just talking about most of the multinational company. If you see today, this is a settlement where you are also involved in this kind of settlement and all. In multinational company, when today the 10 years or 12 years people are getting salary something about 50 to 60,000 rupees. When we enter into the settlement, today the settlement range, it comes from 15,000 to 40,000. They have 30, 35 years of service yet left. So after the free settlement, what we are presumption they will get something salary like 1 lakh rupees. Take an example, even Bosch, what happened? The salary level 1.5 lakh rupees, and even they have automation they have included, and therefore what happened? They have to reduce some of the people, and as per the normal VRS scheme, 3 months salary for every completed year, their salary goes something to 60 to 70 lakhs rupees, and including the gratuity and provident fund, they have declared 1 crore rupees voluntary retirement. Now, what is happening? My question is that if we go in this kind of way, if you start giving the money, what will be a total salary to the 3 settlement? And that always all this settlement effect is come to on the product, and product cost is also increasing. Rightly, somebody else they asked this question. So if you want to compare with the globally, how we can compare globally with this product cost? So that is my question, and I don't know how the strange will go, and after 3 years settlement, where will be, how we can produce, because the thing is that company want to introduce a atomization. Most of the union are not agreeing because the manpower, against that they have to reduce the manpower. And therefore we cannot introduce the, what do you call, a atomization, and nor we are able to control the wages. So what do you feel about it?
There are similar companies there in many places. Yours is a very genuine case.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you, when I joined the Industrial Aeronautics Bangalore, 1961, then the minimum wage in that company was 60 rupees basic and 10 rupees DA. In that I could save 30 rupees. I'm not me, I did not go to the unskilled, but anyway, 30 rupees I could save and send it to the family. That was enough for me to live there. Today, you know what is the public sector worker salary, how many times it has gone up, etc. Now the question is, you said VRS, some people opt for VRS. Some people don't opt for VRS because living with the company is more profitable than going on VRS. Now the 1 lakh is not an uncommon thing. It is there in many places. How will the company able to cope up with is a different thing now. Your product should change. Possibly, you have to also make some changes, not coming to the same product and same profit and same this thing can't be there. That also should change. It's the top level management to take a policy decision on that. There are many MNCs are paying like this. And I am also dealing with some MNCs. It has not come to this level because they are still lower only. Now the that company have got many things. One, their own product mix should change, which are going to give them more profit or more this thing. Number two, if they can make some changes in the work procedure itself, possibly something could happen. The pace of work, etc. Number four, you may not be recruiting anybody now, all going by the superannuation age. So superannuation will clear many of them. If it is the possibility, then they are not replaced. You can only go with the lesser number of people who go on superannuation. Otherwise, PRS scheme in some company, what we have done, father is earning very much high salary now. We gave him VRS and gave employment to son, who come to the lower level of the salary. Same work. Family is ensured upon a wage earner. The high salary fellow gone, his time is over, PRS. His own son or the dependent who is there, legal dependent, he is given an employment, so your wage bill has come down. It's also done in some cases. And any other methods, because your competitor in the other industries, this MNC, what they have done, what are they doing, for example? If your company similar product is also made there, same situation would have come there also. How did they tackle that? Or only we are having the problem, they don't have a problem. These are all things. And then the general thing is, MNCs have got new methods now. I do not want to say. There are new methods are being made. That may not be immediately relevant in all the Indian industries. It is there in many places. For example, one company in Bangalore, they had their own company in Japan. I visited that place. I studied that. How could they make so much of productivity as they can dress? I studied that. Then I myself have given suggestion to the management here. This is what they do, you don't do. So similar things you should study and compare. Not for against the workers, but for the company. I gave the suggestion for the company. And so, number one, your own partners elsewhere, what they do, you should try that. Number two, the VRS not giving some money. Money can be less, but even employment is given to their hair. This can be another way of reducing the cost. And then I don't know, any other methods we should try. And
okay, sir.
All this combination of these things will reduce the overall effect. It is not one way. There are 3-4 ways are there. It will reduce the overall effect. Company will have to survive. People will have to work. These two should be in our mind.
So, sir, sir, with that, I think last question we take from Ms. Jalpa because of the time constraint. Only the last question, sir. You have been, people are listening with a lot of patience because this is a once in a lifetime chance to interact with you. Ms. Jalpa, your last question.
I have done with sir earlier.
Okay.
Okay, so for the information of the members, this program was in a place because of Mr. Pawar. Mr. Pawar has connect with Mr. Mahadevan and he has requested, can we invite Mr. Mahadevan for our session? And that's why this program is. So thank you, Mr. Pawar. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
So Mahadevan, sir, thank you very much. I think it was a very lucid.
One last question, can I ask? One small and last, please. For a minute, not more than that.
I think the question has to be a question, not a story.
No, just a question. Legally speaking, can state government abolish all the labor laws the way it has been done so arbitrarily, the way it has been done in Uttar Pradesh, especially the central laws?
According to us trade unions, it is wrong. They didn't understand how these acts have come. Each act has come under background. Somebody who is unconnected with any of these things, they can't today take a decision to do away with all the laws. it's a very short-sighted program. I mean, the decision that ordinance cannot be followed by other states. They are also trying to do. This is against the whole trade union, industrial relations growth, how it has come. It is all stopping at one stage without understanding how they came. Tomorrow there will be a, I don't know, this will have its effects. Though not today, at a later stage it will have its effect.
So thank you very much, sir. I
So
think
kind of.
it was a wonderful session we had on Sunday morning. More than 55 people I could see, they spent time to understand. And I think you covered up right from the history of AITUC to judiciary to current situation to the insights into various different kind of settlements, type of employers. And important thing you brought out is the automation, its impact, and also management to management. Really a good concept to think upon all participants, and rightfully said that there has to be a together training of trade union people along with HR to work on a collaborative manner. So sir, thank you very much for this an enlightening session. Personally to me, it was a wonderful session. Thank you very much, Pawar Saab, for making this happen. And most importantly, the key functionaries of HR Milestone to organize this session. Thank you very much. Over to HR Milestone.
Anything? Nazneen?
So, on behalf of all of us at the HR Milestone, dear Mr. Speaker, thank you so very much for the time and effort that you have invested. People, each and every person here who has attended this session, I'm sure has benefited hugely. Thank you for sharing the insights. And now we understand the responsibilities your organization carries, as you have shared huge amount of achievements and accomplishments that you have achieved within your tenure and what the organization and your body has accomplished before and will do so in future. Thank you for throwing so much light on so many of the issues of the labor industries. And I'm sure this is something that all of us have been enlightened with, and we have learned and are carrying back so much from this session today. We thank you so much, Mr. Madhavan, and also Mr. Raizada for investing time and taking time out on this Sunday and helping us and being a part of us today. It was a wonderful Sunday that each one of us had of the HR fraternity. Thank you so much.
So
We
one
really
request,
appreciate it.
one request, can everyone on their video so that we can have a photograph, group photograph? Everyone, please.
Oh, yes.
Everyone, please.
Will you take proof photograph?
Singh Saab, RP Singh Saab, please. Yeah.
Post will take.
Yes. अरे पुरोहित साहब भी हैं. Suddenly Purohit is on there. दाढ़ी बड़ी हो रही है सब धीरे-धीरे.
During lockdown, something has to grow.
Good, good. That's great. So thank you everyone.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a
you.
great day. Have a
Thank
great
you.
Sunday. Stay safe,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.